Hello, reptile entrepreneurs. This is your host, Bill Strand, and I want to welcome you to the first interview of Season 2 of the Reptile Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we're going to talk to Richard Stewart of the Tarantula Collective and the Exotic Pet Collective. Richard's passion is tarantulas and scorpions and snakes, and well, who of us really has only one passion? But it's focused on tarantulas, and he's been able to build that into a mighty media empire. His YouTube channel is almost at 100,000 subscribers. And in early 2020, in the midst of the COVID lockdowns, he was able to turn his hobby into his full-time job. And I've brought him on the show to discuss the details of how he built that empire. And really, it's only been 3 years up to this point. And so if you have a niche passion, you can see it can become something substantial. And so I'd like to bring Richard on and let's talk about how he did it. Please join me in welcoming Richard Stewart of the Tarantula Collective to the Reptile Entrepreneur Podcast. Good morning, reptile entrepreneurs. I am here with Richard Stewart of the Tarantula Collective, and we are going to dive into the entire empire he has built around these arachnids and other creepy crawlies. Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and start off and describe from a high level, what is the Tarantula Collective?
Well, the Tarantula Collective is it's a channel I started, but it's also cross-platform on social media. So, we've got a Reddit, or a subreddit, I guess I should say, Instagram, Facebook group, Facebook page, of course, the YouTube channel. There's also a Tumblr, a Twitter, all these different platforms that everyone can engage. It started off just kind of as on Instagram, where I would share my photos, and then a lot of conversations were being started there. So I wanted to kind of expand to make it a little easier for not just people to ask me questions and me answer, but for like a whole community to talk. So I started the Facebook group. And then from there, it's just kind of grown. I started doing YouTube videos because it was easier to, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. So instead of just like typing out a paragraph and telling people, this is how I build an enclosure for this species of tarantula, I was like, well, I'll just record it with my phone and then can link a video. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so how long ago did you start that Instagram channel?
The Instagram I started is probably about 4 years ago. I think it'll be 4 years in June or July. I had like a personal Instagram that I was posting, pictures of my family and stuff like that on. And the more I got into tarantulas and photographing tarantulas, I started sharing those on there. And it started freaking out my friends and family. My wife was like, you got to start another, Instagram because you're scaring my relatives. So I was like, okay. So that's when I don't even think I've been on my personal Instagram in over a year. It's like all focused on the Tarantula Collective now.
Oh, so you've built all this in 4 years. That's impressive.
Well, the YouTube, actually, the beginning of February will be the 3-year anniversary of the channel. It's kind of, I put a few videos out before then, but it was just, like random, sporadic. It wasn't focused on the channel as, something that was important that I wanted to do well. It was just like grab my phone, make a quick video, post it, and then not post for a month or 6 weeks or something like that. And then I'd make another video. And, when I started taking it serious about 3 years ago, or 3 years in February.
So when you started the Instagram channel, we'll go back to the 4 years. YouTube is going to be a whole conversation on itself because that's an amazing thing you've put together. But so going back to your start with the Instagram, how serious were you about this whole tarantula thing?
Well, I mean, I was serious about tarantulas. Like, I had a passion for them. I just found them. It started with a fear. Like, I was scared of spiders. I won't go into the whole origin story, but over a decade and a half, I kept one tarantula and was learning a lot about it, and then slowly started, kind of growing the collection, which happens with most tarantula keepers. With the reptiles, you have a few snakes. And they can sometimes be high maintenance. You got to change your water dish every day. You got to monitor temperatures, all that stuff. Tarantulas, it's not like that. You pretty much, set everything up and then just leave them alone. And they'll be out and visible for weeks or months at a time. And then they, go into a burrow and they're, just completely gone for months. You never see them. So that kind of leads people to, once that happens, a tarantula goes into pre-mold or something like that and disappears, they'll go out and get another tarantula. And before you know it, you've got 10 tarantulas hoping at any time one of them will be out on display where you can actually see them and
Uh-huh.
enjoy them. So as my collection started growing and I discovered online shopping, like I didn't know initially, like for the first 20 years that, or maybe not 20, but 16, 17 years, I didn't know people were selling tarantulas online. And I think for a good part of that, they weren't. And I came across a couple of websites that were selling tarantulas that would deliver them to your door, and there were species that were never available in the pet shops around me. And I started buying those, and look completely different. They act different. So I started taking photos of them and posting, and I just was doing it with my cell phone. It was nothing fancy. I was just like feeding them, and I'm like, ooh, that's a cool pose. I'd snap a picture and post it, and it just I wasn't focusing on Instagram as any kind of like revenue source. I didn't focus on like how to grow followers or anything. I knew nothing about social media or analytics or anything like that. I just was taking pictures and posting, and was doing a lot of things that you probably shouldn't be doing on Instagram. Like I would, I'd do a feeding and take like 15, 20 pictures, and then like within a day post 15 or 20 pictures, just like dump them on
Mhm.
Instagram. And then like,
Uh-huh.
as time went by, essentially people started complaining. They're like, you're blowing up my feed. And I was like, well, I'll space it out. Now I'll just do like one or two a day. And I noticed when I
Uh-huh.
switched over to consistently posting pictures that for whatever reason, the amount of followers I had just started exploding. And I was like, and that's when I noticed, oh, there's like a little analytic thing here on Instagram. So let me look and see what this is. And started like looking into, just different theories or philosophies on how to grow an Instagram following and how best to post pictures and stuff like that.
Well, your Instagram following, we're talking you're at 36,000 followers at this point.
Yeah.
That's a healthy account. Uh, did you what can you attribute that growth to? And what I'm talking about is, you started the Instagram account. Was it just wildly popular, or did it start avalanching when your YouTube channel came out and became wildly popular? Uh, what contributed to that growth?
Well, I think partially because it was the first thing I focused on. For a long time, that was the main like the main platform. That's where I had the most followers. I think what really kind of kicked it up to the next level is shortly after I started my YouTube channel, I had a guy I worked with actually, who was he was like, "Hey, you're doing really cool, but you're using your cell phone, and so your pictures aren't the best, and the video quality and the audio are mediocre." So it was like a Christmas present, but since I worked for him, it was also my Christmas bonus. He bought me a camera, a Lumix
Okay.
G7. It wasn't anything extremely fancy, but for me, I had never used any kind of mirrorless or like a DSLR type, like a real camera before. I just used cell phones and like little point and shoot cameras, and so I
Okay.
got that and was and started learning how to use it. Like figuring out just what ISO settings are and aperture and all this kind of stuff, and started experimenting photographing tarantulas, and it was just like it was almost like if you go back through my Instagram feed, you see me learn how to take photos and use a camera. Like I had
Mhm.
no prior training or anything like that, but once I learned how to use a flash for macro photography and how to light them. So you try to get, and I'm still got a long way to go. So I don't want people to think I'm a professional photographer or anything. But once I started putting some effort into producing the best quality photo that I could, I noticed that that is what started attracting followers. Was not just like
Okay.
taking a snapshot and throwing it up there, but setting up a scene or at least setting up lighting or taking multiple photos at different flashes, like intensities, and finding one that looked really well, and then learning how to edit photos. And so once I put in the time and effort and care into the content I was posting on Instagram, the following kind of came right behind.
Okay. All right, so let's go back to that beginning thing. We started off with Instagram, and then you mentioned Facebook and YouTube, but then there's the subreddit, there's Twitter, there's Tumblr, there's you've got a lot of social media there. Was that all part of a strategy, or did it just kind of snowball together as you grew?
Yeah, I mean, initially it was just organic. It was, I started the Instagram, and part of it was because I live in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia. It's a small town, maybe an hour away from Pittsburgh, but we never go to Pittsburgh unless we like need something.
Mhm.
So it's like there's not. I think there's like maybe two people that I know of in my little town that actually keep tarantulas, and one of
Mhm.
them is like a teenage girl, so I'm not hanging out with her. That would just be weird. And the other's a
Yeah.
guy that is like he works oil and gas or something like that, so he's hardly ever in town anyways. So I did it as kind of a way to like reach out to like-minded individuals and get some friends and share some experience and things like that. Just so I could share my passion for tarantulas with others that had a similar passion. And
Mhm.
so the Facebook group organically grew out of that. So there was, it wasn't just me talking to people in the comments. We could have a whole group of people together and have a conversation. And then the YouTube channel kind of organically grew out of that. But it was when realized that I could monetize the content on YouTube and make a little bit of money. I was like, maybe I should take this more seriously. So I started
Mhm.
like looking a lot, and like if you go on YouTube and you search like how to make a YouTube video, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of channels with all these different theories on how to edit, how to film, and how to make thumbnails and titles, and use your analytics, to figure out what type of videos people enjoy watching. And so I started following some of those channels, and really studying how social media works, how Google Analytics works, how to get your videos to pop up in search recommendations. And one of the videos, the guy was talking about, like YouTube's an unreliable source for income because at any time they could demonetize your channel or they could kick you off the platform. And it's not very likely, but you need to kind of grow your base
Yeah.
and diversify your platforms. So that's when I was, like, well, we'll try Tumblr because that was like before everybody did a mass exit from Tumblr.
Yeah.
And so I started, posting like little blogs there with photos and links to my YouTube videos, and was seeing that I was actually generating traffic. People were coming from Tumblr to my YouTube channel. And I was, of course they were coming from my Facebook page to my YouTube channel. So then I was like, well, where else can I do this? Because not everybody's on YouTube, not everybody's on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just realized the untapped potential. Because I mean, I have friends that just refuse to even download the app. They don't want to be on Facebook whatsoever, but they're on Twitter 6 hours a day. So it's like, well, I started Twitter, and maybe I can connect with some people there. And then people started leaving comments like, well, you're on Twitter and you're on Tumblr and Instagram. Why aren't you on Reddit? So I started a subreddit, and so it was like as people started requesting, like, hey, we want you on the platform that I use all the time. I was like,
Mm.
okay, well, I'll start that. What I didn't realize is how much work goes into maintaining multiple social media platforms.
Well, yeah, maybe we can. You know what? We'll get to that after we go over a couple more of things in your history,
Sure.
because I know that there was a point where you got extra serious about this and you made this a your full time job. Tell us about that transition.
Well, it was it kind of started, I would say, somewhere in mid 2020. I started realizing that the revenue I was just getting, not even really trying, like I wasn't running sponsored ads, or I didn't have anybody promoting videos or like running promotionals on videos or anything. It just was the Google Analytic data that, or the AdSense revenue that was coming from YouTube and Google. It was starting to um, be almost like maybe half of what I made from my 40-hour a week job. And I started taking that money,
Mm.
reinvesting in the channel, like buying new camera equipment, new lenses, new lights, and did that for a while. And then COVID became like a pretty big deal. And we ended up shutting down. It was just, my friend owned the business. I was his only employee. And it got to the point where we just weren't doing like, he was kind of like, I can't afford to pay you. Like, we got no customers coming in.
Yeah.
So I left there, and just was like focused on YouTube, making videos and stuff like that. And it was at that point when we shut down for COVID, my salary from working for him and what I was making from YouTube was about the same. Of course, Google AdSense revenue doesn't take out taxes, so it's like technically I was making a
Mhm.
lot less once you take all the taxes and all that stuff out of there. But
Yeah. Yep.
it was like I might be able to do this. And I had a very long conversation with my wife multiple times. Talking about like,
Yeah. I bet.
should we do this? Can I do this? Because I didn't want. I didn't want to put our family at risk. That was my we got a
Yeah.
mortgage. We got well, he's 13 now, a 13-year-old kid, and they're expensive. And it's like I don't want to leave my job, and focused on doing this and go broke. It was really scary. And I was pretty much like, it's the irresponsible thing to do. I'm not going to do it. And she was actually the one that was like, you should. Like you have a passion for it. You're good at it. People are responding to it. If you could start your own business and make money, like make a living off of it, even if we're not going to be, extremely rich. We already have a house. We have our cars are paid off. If you're going to do it, this is the time to do it. And
Mhm.
just do it through COVID, see how it goes. Once the lockdowns are over, if it's not panning out, then you can always go back to your job or find a different job. So, if it wasn't for her kind of giving me that encouragement, I probably never would have. But yeah, so yeah, I just told the guy, like, this is what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm going to be coming back, and just went full time and trying to make a living out of this.
Okay. How has that been going?
Pretty well. It's funny because sometimes they say never read your comments, but I like engaging with people, and I get on websites like Arachnoboards or different Facebook groups or even the comments of my own videos, and there's sometimes I think there's this misconception that if you're a YouTube creator, you're making tons of money, and they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this guy,
Yeah.
he's
Oh, yeah.
like super rich. Why are we even listening to him?" And I'm like, I am not super rich. Like, if you add it up, like how many hours I put into it versus, based, and then, factor in what I'm actually bringing in every month. It's less than minimum wage, but it's enough to pay
Yes.
my bills, and it's like I think of it as an investment in my future. It's like the more videos I make, the more videos are out there for people to watch that will generate revenue. So, I got to focus on getting as many videos out there as I can. So there's a good base. One of the guys I follow says, like, get views while you snooze. Like, so the
Mhm.
more content you have out there, it may only make $5 a month, but if you've got 100 videos that are only making $5 a month, you got $500 there. So it's like
Yeah.
it adds up.
Yeah.
It has an accumulative effect. So I like the fact that I work for myself. I'm my own boss. Right now, I'm in my basement, which is sometimes it's frustrating because it's like you wake up and it's nice. Like I wake up, I eat breakfast, drink some coffee, I go downstairs, I'm at work. No more commutes, no more,
Mhm.
clocking in or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there's another side of that coin where it's 11:30 at night and I'm getting ready to go to bed and I realize I forgot to respond to this email and work is just right downstairs. So I have there's no
Yeah.
separation from it. So it's like you're constantly, my friend Adam Wickens posted something from Wicked Reptiles, his YouTube channel. It said, I got tired of working 40 hours a week, 9 to 5. So I started my own business. Now I work 24/7. And it's like, that's kind of how I
Yeah.
feel. It's like,
That's about it.
yeah, you're always working. You're always responding to messages. You're always trying to come up with ideas for new videos. And it's like the tarantulas, they don't work 9 to 5. So it's like most of the time they're most active
Mhm.
and most photographable, I guess, sometimes at 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's like I gotta sometimes just stay up really late to get some good photos of the tarantulas when they're actually active and acting in their natural environment, so to speak.
Well, since you've been doing this for, was it, it's, almost 2 years, what do you think about this transition of embracing your passion?
It's I it makes me a lot happier as a person, like I loved working for my friend. He was a good guy, but there was no passion for me in that line of work. It was just collecting a paycheck, doing what I needed to do. Sometimes it was really
Mhm.
interesting. It was fun working with someone that, I was friends with, but it wasn't there was no excitement there. And with this,
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, I make less money, but I enjoy it a whole lot more. It's makes me a lot happier. It's made my relationship with my wife and family a lot better because, you know, it, I have more, like, I work a lot more, but I also have a lot more freedom with my schedule, So if I got to pick the kid up from
Mhm.
daycare, or a granddaughter, or my kid has a recital or something like that. It used to be like it was only two of us working at this place. So if I was on the schedule to work, there was no one to replace me. It's like,
Yeah.
if Dick was out of town, I was working open to close until he was back in town. It didn't matter what was going on in my personal life. If I wasn't there, we had to shut down and we weren't making any money. So doing this, I have that kind of freedom like, well, like, I have a lot of work to do, but I also have the ability to be like, that can wait till tomorrow. I'm going to do this thing with my family or go out of town and see my mom or something like that. So that aspect
Mhm.
of it, I really enjoy. And I really like the creativity that comes with it. Like, sometimes it can just get really, I don't want to say boring, but there's a lot of busy work, like studying analytics and learning how to use a camera. And, there's a lot to making content, whether it's for Instagram or YouTube or whatever, that's not flashy and fun that I think a lot of people don't even
Mhm.
realize, like researching hashtags and stuff like that, like trying to figure out how best to get your videos recommended on YouTube or for your pictures to show up in the feed of Instagram. There's a lot of analytic research and that is not fun at all. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy doing my own taxes. I don't enjoy, figuring out, not so much designing merch, but like the actual figuring out how much to charge for it, what my profit margin is going to be. Is it worth the expense or the time and effort that goes into it? It's just the money and the numbers and all that. I'm not a big fan of, but it's like for me to be able to do what I really enjoy, and I love tarantulas, I love scorpions, and I
Mhm.
think it's really fun, filming them. Like I'm not a filmmaker or anything like that, but growing up, I loved movies. I love the cinematography that comes. I
Mhm.
loved really cool
Mhm.
photographs and I just never thought that I had the ability to do that. When I was in high school, I had some friends that were in photography and, they were all artsy and edgy and cool. And I was like, yeah, I'm not, I'm a musician, I play guitar. And so I'm
Mhm.
not doing that photography thing. I can appreciate it as an art form, but I just don't have the patience or the ability, the background knowledge to be able to work a camera. So, getting over that first hurdle and learning how to use a camera just kind of opened up this whole world of creative expression and I don't know. It just that's kind of as passionate as I am about tarantulas and scorpions and exotic pets. I'm starting to realize I'm also becoming just as passionate about photography and videography. Like I
Interesting. Yeah.
really, it's like become a second hobby that these two hobbies have now kind of merged into a career. And it's like, as I'm learning more and more about tarantulas, I'm also learning more and more about how to film and how to take photos.
Mhm.
So that part of it is has been really exciting, and it just kind of makes me enjoy my life in general a
Mhm.
whole lot
Mhm.
more, as well as like enjoying the tarantulas a whole lot more.
All right. So for all of the entrepreneurs out there listening to this who is thinking, "Yeah, I've got a passion. Can I make it work?" Let's go over what are the revenue sources that have worked for you.
It's kind of been a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. I've used a lot. Like initially, my first thought was, how am I going to monetize this? Because YouTube is only,
Mhm.
at the time, maybe would make $100 a month. Like when it first started, and I was like trying to figure out how I could, make money off this. It was like
Yeah.
$100 a month, and then as the channel grew, it was like $200 a month, and then $400 a month. But it was always like I'm putting in 20, 30 hours a week making these videos, and I'm making less than I do for a 1 week's of work, like 40 hours of work at my
Yeah.
normal job.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's got to be other ways to diversify, and that's when I really started, kind of diving into these content creators on YouTube that, are kind of show you different ways, like how to diversify your income. And the first one was like merch. And I was like, that seems easy. I'll get my logo, I'll throw it on a t-shirt, I'll sell it for $20 and, and make $5 a
Mhm.
shirt or whatever it is. So, that was like the first thing. And that worked really well initially, but then you only have so many fans of your channel or your Instagram or whatever. Like there's only so many people that like you enough to like, oh, I want to wear that guy's shirt, and then
Yeah.
they buy that
Yeah.
shirt and now they own it. They're not going to buy another one unless that one like just gets destroyed. So that's when I was like, well, I got to
Yeah.
come up with different designs, and then that's when I started, messing around with Photoshop and different logo designers and try to come up with cool new stuff to put on shirts and like, researching, well, what's selling on Amazon? What are people that like tarantulas or snakes? What kind of clothes are they buying on Amazon? And then like looking at those designs and trying to find something similar that I can make that's my own. So that was my first kind of fixation, I guess. Like that was my first.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm
Okay.
gonna work on merch, but merch is frustrating because it could be really expensive. Like initially I was going through a screen printer locally, and and I had to buy at least like 200 shirts, in different sizes, and then that's your inventory. And inevitably, every time I do that, I would sell out of extra larges, and people were like, "Well, I've got small, medium, large, and double X," and they're like, "No, we want extra
Mm-hmm.
larges." So then I would order more, and then get a lot. And then, the next order, I would get a lot more extra larges. And then, of course, then more people are buying mediums. So I'm out of mediums. And I'm like, this is very frustrating. So I went to print on demand services. And I've
Yeah.
tried, like, I think I'm on my fourth one right now because there's always some kind of issue. Like sometimes it's a quality issue. Like I was using Printify
Mm.
initially, and I just didn't like the quality of it. People were buying it. And then like 2 months later, the logo was peeling off the shirt. And I was like, okay, well, I got to find something a little
Okay.
bit better. I went with Printful. I was with them for a long time. I really enjoyed them. And recently, like I'm in the process right now, switching over to a new company. They just started called Fourth Wall. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Okay. I
They're
haven't.
yeah, they're really cool because it's a business that was created by YouTube content creators for YouTube content creators because they're having the same issues that I and thousands of other people have had with some of these print on demand companies.
Really?
Like when it's working well,
It,
it works
it
well. But I'm sorry.
can it integrate with your YouTube shelf?
Yes, that's the exciting part about it.
Oh,
It's just like
okay.
with the issue I was having with Printful, and they're a great company. I like what they do, but if they screwed up and sent somebody a shirt that was damaged, or something that was in the wrong size, or it gets lost in the mail, the process of doing a return or tracking a package, getting something sent out and replaced was kind of complicated. Like
Mm,
that person had to email
okay.
me, and then I had to email them, and then they would email me back and want
Uh,
pictures. So, it was like this lot of back and forth. And it was like, why can't they just send you an email, say, hey, you screwed up, and you send them a new one? Like that seems to be,
yeah. Yeah.
and that was what sold me on Fourth Wall is they're like, we're cutting all that out. We've got our own customer service department. So they order through your website or through your, YouTube merch shelf. And then we like, you're the face of it, but we kind of handle fulfilling the order, getting it printed out, mailing to them. If there's any issues with returns or cancellations or anything like that, they contact us. And it's almost like they are acting like my customer service. So it's like, they respond as the
All right.
Tarantula Collective, and we'll get everything kind of straightened away for them.
I've been working with Printful and Spreadshirt, and I'm going to check out Fourth Wall. That's
Yeah, and they use
yeah.
like they have contracts with Printful. So that was the first thing. Like some of the stuff
Okay.
that I had designed on my website, I could do on Fourth Wall as well. And I was like, well, but they're probably, I mean, they got to make their money, So it's like, am I going to pay an extra fee on top of what Printful would charge me? But the way they have it worked out is essentially the same price. But it's
Okay.
not just limited to Printful. They also have Bespoke and some other cool stuff that offers products that Printful or it's a lot of these other on-demand companies don't have, which is really cool. So yeah, right now it's
Okay.
like invitation only. So you have to like go to their website, fill out a form. They'll check out your social media accounts and see if you're a good fit. But the cool thing about them is as they're growing, and like I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I don't know why I'm promoting them right now, but I'm just excited. They
Very
have
good.
a Cameo. Are you familiar with Cameo? Like you can get a celebrity to like
I'm not.
record a 60-second video. You pay them. I mean, like, yeah, it's
Oh,
an
oh,
app,
yes, yes.
and they got all these celebrities on there, and you're like, oh, I want you to wish my brother happy birthday. Here's $50, and they record a
Yeah,
little video
yeah.
and send it to him. They have something like that on there. For so once that's up and running, if somebody wants to like get a video message from me, they can like leave a donation of $5, ask a question, or have a request, and then I can record a quick little video and send it to them, which I thought
Oh,
was
okay.
pretty cool. And they're also in February or March launching a Patreon like subscription service. So it's kind of taken like all of the different, I've got like 4 different companies I'm working with to get all this stuff together, and they're like, hey, we put it all together in one, and so it's just one platform that will integrate all these different revenue streams that you have going. So, like Patreon has been really good. It's some people really dislike it for whatever reason. They're like, I'm not paying you $5 a month
Hmm.
for content you're putting out for free, and it's like, well, that's fine. But like, if some people do enjoy it, they like supporting, like kind of getting that behind the scenes, kind
I've
of
been
stuff.
asked to do it.
Yeah, you should. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really
People
cool.
want to support it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some people just really like what you're doing. They appreciate the art or the effort that goes into it, and want to make sure that it sticks around. And initially, I was kind of hesitant because I was like, it feels like I'm begging for money or something like that. Like it just seemed weird. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm already putting this out there for free, and I'm making the money off the ad revenue. And but people were like, no, we want to support you. We want you to, to and you can offer them kind of things that like maybe that I have a video that's not long enough or good enough or like in the niche of tarantulas. It's something that just won't fit on my YouTube channel, but I can post it on Patreon, and those people can get access to content that not everybody sees. And it's kind of I do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes stuff, or like I'm building some enclosures right now, and I'm taking pictures and posting that on Patreon. No, normal people on YouTube won't see it until it's done, but these people can watch the progress almost like in real time, and
Mm-hmm.
they enjoy that. And
Okay.
it's like $2 a month or $5 a month, and it's not a lot for them, but when you've got 200 people giving you a couple bucks a month, that starts to add up, and it's not enough to live on. But when you take your Patreon supporters, your YouTube channel members, your YouTube ad revenue, and merch sales, like then you start getting enough money to live off of. And then
Mm-hmm.
once I crossed, I don't know, probably 50,000 subscribers or something like that, I started having brands in the niche kind of ask like, how much would you charge for us to sponsor a video? And I was like, I have no idea. Like no one's asked me that before. But it's like a tarantula dealer once they've got a sale going on. They want to run an ad. So I started like looking into other YouTube channels that, they're doing like Squarespace promotions, or, there's all kinds of businesses that
Mm-hmm.
will sponsor YouTube videos, but trying to figure out what to charge a company is a mystery because nobody wants to tell you
Yeah.
what they're making.
Yeah.
There's no like rhyme or there's no form, so you had to like really kind of look and figure out like, well, how many people are watching my videos in the past 30 days, and what are the demographics, like what age, what sex, what location. Because if I had half my viewers were in the UK, that's useless advertising to those people if it's a company based in the United States that can't ship to the UK. So it's like
Yes.
they're
Yes.
not going to take that into consideration. So trying to figure out like what my worth is, so I know what to charge, is very difficult. It's something I still struggle with, because like and I don't know why, but it's like sometimes I just feel bad charging, so it's like I do the
Mm-hmm.
math, I figure it out. I'm like, it comes out, we'll just like pick a number like $500 for a sponsored ad. But then I'm like, well, I know this guy. I've known him for years. I've been a customer. I'm only going to charge him $200. And then it's like, that it makes me feel better, but in the long run, I'm hurting myself because I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
charging what it's worth.
Yeah.
So
You're
that's the
offering
difficult
something of
part.
value, and yeah, you need to be paid for that.
Yeah, but then on the other side, you have people or businesses that they don't like. They want you to advertise their business, but they don't want to pay you for it. It's just like, oh, we're
Mm-hmm.
giving
Oh
you
yes.
exposure. We'll
Yes.
share the video on our website. It's like, how does that help me? Like, your website gets like 1,000, visits or 2,000 visits a month. How many people are actually going to click on a video when you're like, I was like, that's not a good value proposition, And for a long time, it was like trades, barters, You're like, well, I'll do an ad, a promotion in my video in exchange for you sending me some free tarantulas or a free enclosure or something like that. So that was, I was doing that for a while, and that was cool. But then reality kind of sets in, and it's like I can't pay my taxes. Like the IRS does not take tarantulas, neither does my
Yeah.
power company or the internet company.
Yep.
Like nobody will take that. I have to have cash if I wanted this to be sustained. So
Yeah.
kind of making that transition. Some dealers, some companies that I've dealt with are all about it. They see the value in sponsoring a post on Instagram, knowing that hundreds or like thousands of people are going to see it, and that they recognize that it's a more directed ad to their customer
Yeah.
base than if they
Yeah.
like did a Facebook or a Google ad, because it's
Yeah.
even when you like kind of niche it down and have it directed, it's still pretty I don't want to say it's not as effective as going to a creator that has like your customer base right there, has their attention.
Yeah.
Google ads just can't compete with that because they're throwing ads to like my mom because she liked one of my tarantula videos. Now she gets ads for tarantula videos. She's
Yeah.
like, I'm never going to buy a tarantula. Why do they keep doing this? I'm like, it's all AI. It's not a thinking mind that's really doing that. So some
Right.
companies see that value and are more than willing to pay you what you're worth because they see the return on their investment almost immediately. Where other people, and I'm not saying like they're older or anything like that, they just don't have that intimate relationship with social media, or the kind of the cause and effect nature of advertising through, I don't like an influencer, so to speak. So they don't see that, like, I should be able to give you $20 in tarantulas and get a 10-minute video. It's like,
Mhm.
no, not on this planet, not anymore.
Uh-huh. Now, you did something interesting. You started a YouTube channel. You had a YouTube channel going great, and then you started a podcast.
Yes.
Usually, it's the other way around. The podcasters are being forced to go to YouTube
Yeah.
just because of the culture and what's going on, but you went the other direction. What was the story behind that?
The I guess part of it was YouTube. You're kind of constrained to like the. It seems, at least for me, my viewers, the kind of sweet spot for a video is between 8 to 12 minutes. If I go over 12 minutes, when I start hitting like the 15, 16 minute mark, people start dropping off. If it's too short,
Mm.
it's just not enough time to get all the information that I need in there. And sometimes, when I do like a 10 or 12-minute video, it's almost like there's no breaks. It's like I start talking, and then I'm like, the way I edit it, it's like just, it's like there's not even a breath. It's just blah, 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 for
Mm.
and some people really respond well to that. It's like it keeps their attention. They're more engaged, and the 10 minutes goes by before they realize it. But no matter how you edit it, there's always seems to be, especially with more controversial topics or more in-depth topics, or I couldn't get all the information I wanted to get into a video that would do well
Mhm.
on YouTube. And if YouTube's not going to be recommended to people, it's not going to get in front of their eyes. My philosophy is kind of like, well, what's the point of doing it? Like, why make a 30-minute video if only 2,000 people are going to see it, when I could, if I could cut it down to a 10-minute and 50,000 people would see it? It's like, so
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
just some topics, some conversations I wanted to have that just wouldn't work. And in that type of medium, whatever. So somebody had like, essentially it started with a live stream. I had done a live stream with another content creator, and I was like, we'll only do this for like 20 or 30 minutes. It'll just be fun. We'll have a conversation. And before you knew it, like 2 hours went by, and we're like, oh wow, we got to get off here. And then we're like 700-800 people watching, just the live, not even counting the people that, weren't there when it was live and watched it playback. And I was like, there's people enjoy this kind of long form conversation about tarantulas. And I love listening to podcasts, like Mark Maron's podcast is one of my favorites. And,
Mhm.
I've been listening to that for a while, and then, a lot of other podcasts. And I was like, well, if there's an audience for it, we'll try it out. And, I started off just myself talking, and I don't know. I just don't like talking by myself. So it's like, it, it, it's good for a video because I can edit out the lapses, like when I'm thinking and breathing
Yeah.
and doing stuff like that. But I realize that when I have a conversation with someone, I speak a lot more freely or smoothly or whatever, and it, like, that back and forth kind of keeps that I don't know. It just kind of keeps the momentum going, and the pace. And just started like, well, just have some of my YouTube friends come on, and we'll talk and just have a conversation about our favorite tarantulas, or whatever's going on in the hobby. And those podcasts started doing relatively well. I mean, for not having any podcasts out there and getting like 1,000 listens or 1,000 downloads on a podcast was like, wow. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't think I would get, I didn't even think I'd break 100. So I started reaching out to other, not so much content creators. I tried to get away from that, but talking to people like Dr. Linda Rayer. She's from the entomology department at Cornell University. It was probably like one of my favorite conversations, because it's like, she knows, she's probably forgotten more about tarantulas and spiders than I'll ever know. It's just like a brilliant mind that studied these her whole entire life, and just be able to sit down and pick her brain. And it's like, my grades would have never got me into Cornell University, but here I'm sitting with one of the leading biologists there and having this conversation. And, and
That's very cool.
yeah, and there's, I mean, a lot more people like that out there that I've been able to have conversations with, and people that go out into the wild and research tarantulas, or people that there's a lot of people doing podcasts, and it's been interesting, talking to people in South Africa, or in the UK about the hobby, and the subtle differences, in the prices and what's available in the laws and stuff like that. And it was conversations and information that just wouldn't translate well into a YouTube video, or just wouldn't even be possible, that the podcast has kind of opened up and let me do. It's the issue I have. Why it's not like a more of a main focus for mine is because I just can't figure out how to monetize it very well. It's kind of been like, you put a lot of effort into it. Like, editing a 3-hour podcast, like, it sometimes can be very frustrating, especially when things don't sync up well, or, there's going to be all kinds of issues. And like editing it takes a lot of time to edit a 10-minute video. Imagine editing a 2-hour video, essentially, that's like, that's why at first I was just doing audio podcasts, loading them up to Buzzsprout, which is the platform that I use, and, just kind of seeing how it goes. But I had, I guess, what a lot of people have dealt with it. People were like, I don't listen to my podcasts. I like to watch them. And I think Joe Rogan is responsible for that, I think, because people like to watch his podcast on YouTube. So I was like, well, it wouldn't be that much more difficult to just set a camera in front of me while I'm recording. But I don't think people realize when you add video to an audio, it creates it's like 4x.
It just a lot of complication that comes with that.
Yeah. So it's like, there was some podcasts that I recorded were 3 hours long. So that means initially, like before I even upload it, I have to rewatch the entire 3 hours. But then when you're editing, it's like, I gotta go back and make sure that it's flowing okay, and that this transition didn't look too abrupt. And so you end up watching a 3-hour podcast 3 or 4 times, when it's like cumulatively.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was hours and hours and hours of my time put on this thing that's going out there, and people are listening to it, but it's not, maybe making $5 an ad revenue on YouTube, because YouTube's like, oh, that's a 2 or 3 hour video. We're not promoting that, because nobody, because people will watch it in like short bursts. They'll watch 10 or 20 minutes, turn it off, go do something, then turn it back on. So they end up watching the whole thing on YouTube. But as far as the YouTube analytics is concerned, they're only watching 10 or 20 minutes, like 10% at a time. So they're like, well, if people are only getting 10% through, we're not going to promote this, because it's not keeping people on our platform. So, sometimes podcasts don't do the best on YouTube. But, trying to figure out how to monetize the audio version is proving difficult. Like, I've gotten a couple companies that have been willing to sponsor, but, when I have the prices based off views and the analytics on YouTube, so they already know that. So when I can show them the analytics of the podcast, they're like, well, that's like 25% of what you're charging for, YouTube. So I only want to pay 25% of that rate. It doesn't, it's just not a big source of revenue. So I'm pretty much only doing it because I enjoy doing it, and people seem to enjoy listening to it.
I haven't figured out that when people listen to podcasts, they're more involved than they are when they're watching a YouTube video, but that hasn't really gotten the recognition it deserves.
I agree.
So right now you are having to make a living with this content. And so you have a certain amount of hours per week. You have Instagram, YouTube, and a podcast. And despite what everybody thinks about just taking a snapshot of and throwing it up on Instagram, it takes a lot of work putting together the content for Instagram. And there's so many different things besides just posting a picture. There's the reels, and there's the stories, and there's so much for interaction. And YouTube is a whole ecosystem on its own. How do you decide what to put your time to?
That's a difficult question to answer. A lot of times it's more like I'm running around putting out fires. It's like, I haven't uploaded to TikTok today, or for like 3 days. I need to do a TikTok video real quick and get it up there. And then you get that done. And usually I like to do, like across the board, I like to kind of like, what do they call that? Like batch recording, or, batch editing, or whatever. Like, if I'm gonna set up the lights and cameras and everything and record a YouTube video, I'm not just gonna record one. I'm gonna go ahead and write out 4 or 5 videos, record all of them while I have everything set up, and then edit them and release them down the line as needed. Same thing with with TikTok. I'll set up everything to record vertically. I'll try to record 10, 20 TikToks, and then get them all edited, uploaded to my phone, and then do all the stuff you have to do on TikTok to get them into the drafts and release them, once, one a day. And then, so it's similar with, I'll do a photo shoot with Instagram and get them all edited. And so it's like, that's kind of my method is, try to create a bunch of content for one platform at once, but drip it out, slowly release it.
Okay.
And then kind of work on a cycle like that, so like today we're filming YouTube videos, but tomorrow we'll be filming TikTok videos. And then, Thursday we'll be doing photographing as many tarantulas and scorpions and stuff as I can. And so I kind of work on it that way. So I always have, like they say, it's in the can, it's like I got 5 or 6 videos that are either completely edited and ready to release, or at least are already filmed and all I need to do is edit them. Same with photos and stuff like that.
I aspire to be able to batch like that. And boy, it just never works for me.
Yeah,
But
it's
I'm
hard.
going to work on it.
Well, it
So,
it started with YouTube because it was like, if I didn't do that at first, I was like, I want to be current and up to date, and it's like address things that are happening right now. So I'm only going to film, like I would film, edit, release, film, edit, release, and it was just I was getting burnt out. It was because I don't have the luxury of having a studio like some YouTubers do, where I can just set up lights permanently, set up the mics, everything's like set up and ready to go. All I have to do is turn on the camera and hit record. You know, just because limited space and being in my house with a kid running around and stuff like that. Like sometimes I got to break everything down, and store it in the corner. And also it just gets in the way. Like these lights are huge, and there's wires
mhm.
everywhere, and I've got them surrounded by glass aquariums, and you know what I mean, with venomous scorpions and tarantulas, and it's like I don't want to risk breaking an enclosure and
Yeah,
it hurting the
yeah,
tarantula or the tarantula getting out, because that's never. I mean, I've got 2 cats, so if a tarantula gets out, it's pretty much like it's gone. The cats aren't going to let it live very long. So,
mhm.
I got to be very careful about that. So, I always got to, pack everything up and put it away. And that's one of my goals. Well, it was actually my goal last year, but with COVID and everything, that kind of got shot to crap. But, you know, I, my dream is to find like a studio space here in town, where I can move all the tarantulas and snakes and all my camera equipment, set everything up, and be able to like leave it up. Like this is, a permanent set.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have to break it down because I don't think people realize that aspect of it unless you're doing it. But I mean, just setting up lights sometimes takes an hour, So it's like if I want to record, I'm spending an hour setting up lights, setting up, the mics and framing the scene and getting the camera and everything ready. So you got an hour or two already invested before you even hit record, and then some people think like, well, it's a 10-minute video. It took me 10 minutes to watch. It probably only took you 10 minutes to make. It's like, no, it didn't even, or some people are like, well, you invested an hour or two. And it's like, no, it really breaks down every minute you watch. That's an hour or two worth of work, So if you
Yeah,
watching a 10-minute
yeah,
video, it could have taken me 20 hours to make that, when you take all that stuff into
easily.
consideration.
Now, so for the entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
are the people who just have a passion for animals, reptiles, tarantulas, hermit crabs, whatever. What kind of advice would you give if they are considering making it their career, say, their income?
Yeah. Um, Make sure that before you make it a career, make sure it's something you're really passionate about. It's something that, you know, it, 'cause burnout is real. Like it's something I've struggled with. Like actually, uh, my plan was to take January off from uploading content, and it turned out it was like half of December in January because we ended up getting COVID and we were sick, and it was like I didn't have the energy to pick up a camera and take a photo, let alone try to write and record and all that stuff. So and then the holidays and all that, so like I'm in the middle of technically a break right now, even though I'm writing and recording, I'm just not releasing at the moment. And
Mhm.
but like that's trying to find a balance is the hardest part for me, and I think the most important part, not going too far. It's like you're passionate about it, you enjoy it, and you want to make it a career. So you start putting in like 50, 60, 70 hours a week, but that's not sustainable. It's like you do that, you go for a couple of months, and then you start to almost like resent what you're doing. It's like, oh, I don't,
Mhm. Mhm.
I see people burn out all the time. I've burnt out a few times. Like I just can't do it. I just have lost all motivation. I don't want to do this anymore. Do I even want to keep tarantulas anymore? And it's like when I start getting to that kind of mindset, it's like, all right, I got to take a break
Yeah.
and kind of relax and kind of get just rest for a little bit, let the creative juices start flowing again. Um, but I think one of the most important things, for at least for me, there was two things besides just being passionate. It's researching what you're doing. Like you may know a whole lot about tarantulas and stuff like that, but you got to research the platform that you're using because there's just an unending amount of data that could be helpful. It's like you could spend 40 hours a week creating this beautiful, amazing video, but if you don't do the boring, busy behind the scenes work of researching the analytic data and search engine optimization and all that just horrible, boring crap, then that 40 hours is almost wasted because it's like it's not just going to magically become a viral video that is going to make you hundreds of thousands of dollars and get you millions of followers. Like you got to put in that kind of busy work to just understand the platform that you're using and the algorithm and what it's not the same for everyone. Like I'm good friends with another YouTube creator, Tarantula Cat, and the type of videos and topics and stuff that her audience responds to, my audience doesn't respond to at all. It's like I'll make a video just like something she did and we'll get a third of the views that her video got, and vice versa. Like she'll try to do a video similar to my style and none of her fans will watch it. So it's like, you got to figure out what the people that are following you and enjoying your content like. And one of the more busy aspects, but just kind of interacting with your community, I feel like is really important, especially in the beginning, like breaking down that fourth wall. So people that comment on your photo, you comment back and you ask them a follow-up question or something like that, engage with your audience and kind of build that rapport. And that builds a solid foundation moving forward. Like, I think if I didn't do that, for the first 50,000 subscribers, I wouldn't be where I am now, about to cross 100,000, because it just made it a lot more relatable and obtainable. If that makes sense. They know that you're a real person. Not some people have left comments and think that this is a business, as in like I've got 20 employees. I got somebody working the camera and somebody editing the videos, someone doing the sound, someone it's like, this is just me. I'm just one person doing all of this. So being able to like talk to people and connect with them on a more personal level like that, I think really helps a lot.
Okay. What is in the future for the Tarantula Collective?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, one of my main goals is getting a studio space where I can have this all set up. Not just because it would be a lot easier having permanent fixtures for lights and stuff like that, but I mean, because this is in my home, and partially because it's a pandemic, but also because we're just private people. I can't really invite people over. Like if we weren't in the middle of COVID-19 and I wanted to have you on my podcast, ideally I would be like, here, come to my house and we'll set up and we'll be right across from each other. Like there's some people in town. Like there's a biology professor at the local university who spends a lot of time on invertebrates and reptiles. And, we've talked a lot online, and it's like, well, I want him to have him on the podcast. But it's like, do I really want to invite a stranger, so to speak, into my home? Like that, it's a lot different than inviting him to an office. It's like, because it's not just like, I don't have like a door that goes directly into this part of the basement. They got to come in my front door and see the dogs and the cats and my wife and kids. And, so, I mean, I don't know if it's just a West Virginia thing or maybe we're just antisocial, but it's like, unless we know you really well.
No, that's just that's universal.
I just don't want to, and then like I get people leave comments all the time that want to come, like some YouTubers want to come and do a video, here with my collection, or just viewers are like, hey, I live a few hours away. I'll be driving near your area. Can I come by and check out your collection? It's like, I don't know. You're a random stranger on the internet. I'm not giving you my home address. It's like, yeah. But if I had a business location, somewhere with, outside of my house, then I would be able to do that a lot easier. You could have people come over. You could have other content creators come over. You could have podcasts and not have to put my family's privacy in jeopardy. So, that's one of my main goals, is trying to do that. But man, that brings on so many other expenses, like rent and
and overhead,
insurance there. And a whole new list of utilities. And where I am in this, it's small. And there's a lot of office spaces and stuff like that. And I've been looking for a while, but it's like reach out. I'm talking to somebody. They got an office space, and I'm like, oh, this will be great for a studio. We'll be discussing negotiating rent. And then they always ask that question, like, well, what exactly are you going to be doing? It's like, oh, I film videos about tarantulas and snakes and scorpions. They're like, you're going to bring tarantula, snakes, and scorpions in here? I'm like, well, yeah, of course. They're like, yeah, nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We don't want that's, yeah. So like, I've kind of been running into that problem, and
Hmm.
commercial real estate is so much more expensive than like renting an apartment. So I was like, well, maybe I'll rent an apartment. Because just get a cheap loft apartment and turn that in there. But then they're like, they got all these rules about pets and stuff like that, and so they don't want you in there, and then the business people want to charge you thousands of dollars a month, and it's like just trying to find that sweet spot of someone that has like some random storage space that they're not using, that they're going to rent cheap. That would be perfect, because I looked at one spot in a strip mall that was like kind of in my price range. I was like, this is going to work great. And the only reason they didn't want to do it is because I wasn't generating foot traffic. It's like, part of the reason we want businesses
Okay.
in here is that they're going to be attracting customers to other businesses. And you're pretty much saying you're not going to let anybody in. So why would we want to rent to you?
Hmm.
It's like, well, that's fair. Like, so a place that
Yeah.
doesn't have a storefront. And so it's difficult trying to figure that out. But that's one of my goals is to try to do that. And also
Okay.
I really want to kind of just get more cinematic with the videos, try to, work more on the podcast, but also try to, I just want to do more of a nature documentary style, that is going to appeal to people outside of just tarantula keepers. I mean, I like making videos just for tarantula keepers, but I found a lot of, there's a lot of people out there that they just enjoy nature documentaries, or they just enjoy learning. They don't necessarily want to know how to keep the tarantula, but they want to learn all about the tarantula, where it's
Hmm.
from,
Hmm.
and what it's stuff like that. So I want to kind of focus more on that, and if things are working out in the world that travel is going to be easier and easier, I do have some stuff lined up to actually go out in nature and film, like at Sky Islands in Arizona.
Okay.
Just got invited to go into a cave somewhere in Texas that's pretty much not accessible to humans unless you like go through this boat and all this kind of stuff. It's this hidden cave, and some biologists are going there looking for new species of invertebrates, and they invited me along. So it's like stuff like
Oh,
that.
very
That's
cool.
that's what I want to be doing in the next year or two.
Okay. Well, Richard, it has been wonderful having you on and sharing your insight into how you've built this business. And it sounds exciting. And I know I'm going to be watching what you're doing, and come back around maybe later this year and see how this has all worked out, because I've seen all that camera equipment that you just bought. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what that turns out on your how that turns out on your YouTube channel.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been fun being on. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you later.
All right. See ya.
Thank you, Richard, for coming on and sharing how you built your hobby into something that you could do as a career. And I like how he shared the process of creating the content. These YouTube people, they spend a lot of time on those videos. I know, because I do it. But it doesn't always look like much when somebody puts out a video twice a week. I mean, how hard can it be? Well, it's a lot of work. And so it's very good to consider this before you decide that you want to become a content creator. Of course, there's no harm in just starting off and trying it and seeing if it's the kind of life for you, because no one's telling you to quit your job and then just jump into this. You can try it out. But once you do try it out and decide you really enjoy this and being an educator may be the job for you, then you have the challenge of monetizing it, whether it's through affiliate links, AdSense, or these other methods that Richard talked about. So, I will continue to bring on content creators and people who have made working in the reptile world work for them. And there may be pieces in what each one of these people do that you can apply to your life and your time in the reptile community. If you're interested in learning more about Richard and his tarantulas, then go to the Tarantula Collective YouTube channel, the Exotic Pet Collective podcast, or his website at thetarantulacollective.com. Thank you very much for joining me here. I hope success for your reptile ventures, and I'll do everything in my power to give you the tools to realize that. Take care of yourself, take care of our reptile community, and let's see what we can build.